Hi, this is me, Otan from Nerdimations. Now, this is the, I think, 18th installment of the Uncolonized series. I haven't touched this in quite a while, and this is mostly because of my new computer, and also since I have been trying to move into new things, things like animating stuff. You haven't seen many animated videos because as those fail at a spectacular rate, right? In some totally diabolical ways, but I will be probably making some someday. Anyways, is it is it as it's time to begin. It's currently the Cold War, and uncolonized Africa has new issues: capitalism or communism. The Soviets specifically wanted and Senegal, well, this region right here, bordering Fouta alone, specifically because of its use with Dakar as a port. And so they were able to fund a communist uprising in the region in 1952, and they overthrew the old Senegambian government. But also, there were other actions being taken. For example, in the south, you see, these South Africa wanted more autonomy, and even though they were already kind of independent from the British, and during that, and in 1960 and in 1954, they officially declared full independence. So from the British, with Namibia staying under South Africa as a puppet. Not really a puppet, as soon after they coup the government and basically just make it an unincorporated part of South Africa. Unlike the other parts of South Africa, which had mostly ended segregation, South Africa was still pretty segregated. Now you might ask, aren't the Boers pretty racist? Well, this mostly changed after they were received by the rest of these Southern African states. If you remember or watching the earlier videos, which is why you should watch the earlier videos, as they're the only way you're going to know about how this happens. The South Africans specifically wanted these small principalities, that were defended by the Zulus. Now, if you know anything about real life, it's that the Zulus are not very happy when colonialists start thinking about out taking the territories. And so the Zulus decided, instead of letting them attack us, we'll just attack them first. And it worked surprisingly well. They were able to take parts of South Africa before South African forces could even mobilize to go fight these principalities. And soon after, with the aid of the Boers and Botswana, they'd push even further into South Africa until they had fully crossed the entire shrubland straight to the outskirts of Cape Town, which was when the South Africans realized that they really should stop trying with taking these areas. For the next few months, these regions would be occupied by none other than the Zulus, showing just how truly badass the African militaries were at this point. You can't stop them. Also, colonialism had been slowing down and worldwide, especially with the British losing India, which I forgot to put on the map. Nice to see you, Pakistan. Meanwhile, Africa wide, there was more pro-socialism and in the area, specifically in the Congo. Now, the Congo specifically did not want to go into civil war. They had seen what had happened to Mali and Ethiopia due to the communist capitalist split. And so they became more neutral instead of their original, mostly capitalist self. But that didn't stop there from being a workers' revolution led by Soviet-backed soldiers, whose specific plan was revolt from specifically the Katanga regions, which were the least stable out of Congo's lands, and then march inwards towards towards Sango, and Cabo Luango, and take all the major cities at the center of the kingdom owned. At first, this rebellion went well, and they nearly took all the major cities. But slowly it became a drawn-out revolt. And even though they did slowly but surely take new territories, there was always a new territory that was being taken back by the neutral government. And in 1954, they were finally forced to give up the revolution, at least for now. Meanwhile, the Congolese did have some expansionist plans of their own, specifically to take Angola, or rather make Angola one of their vassals. This would be the first Angola War. There will be more Angola wars. The plan was take Luanda, take Angola and then cause the country to collapse, because those were the major cities and most of what mattered for the Angolese government. But no, they weren't able to do this. And neither their coastal attempt was totally destroyed. Their inland attempt was fully halted by late 1954, and in December of 1955, they signed a peace treaty with the Angola that allowed them to stay fully independent. Even more, the Angola actually got land back, as they had claims for these small regions, and making them officially now a territory of Angola. This was significantly bad for the morale of the Congo. Oh, but don't worry. There's plenty of things that could fix this. This is not at all of the Congo being totally destroyed by the horrible, evil Angola. Angola didn't have provinces, and the small states that had been absorbed, or rather instead, Edwards had acted more independent. That was until May, and they were all forced into Angola fully, and their local governments totally collapsed because of the Angolan government telling them, "Hey, yo, if you don't collapse the government, I'll collapse you." And apparently they didn't exactly enjoy the idea of dying, so they let the Angola have it. But there was even more tensions being caused by the rise of socialism, specifically in the still kind of unstable Sudan. And you see, the rebels in the Congo were part of the African Revolutionary Front, a revolutionary force which wanted to unite at least Central and Eastern Africa under a socialist utopia. Now, you could have asked all these different kingdoms and republics, want to unite? But then again, and half of these states are capitalist, and the other half are neutral. So you're gonna have to do it by force, and that's exactly what happened in Sudan. Thanks to the Soviet aid, they were able to destroy the original Sudanese government and formed the Central African in a commune. They then went on their campaign of trying to cause the same revolutions to happen anywhere and everywhere. And they were successful, at least around the Central African Republic. The Congo, though, was squared. They did not want to be incorporated into a massive, probably an empire, or based off of something that would probably make their country not profitable and make it look very anti-American. This was specifically grown by the recent annexation of Kivu, bringing up fear and tension in the Congo even more. But while this was happening, a much better thing was occurring in the Congo. You see, the Congo River has these large rapids that basically makes the inland fully inaccessible by sea, and they'd have to rely on land travel to keep them going. And so the Congo literally dammed the river, and then literally forced the rapids into a steady slope by mining out all the stone and the entire cliff until it had been smoothed out into a nicer, steadier stream. Then locks were added to the areas since there was still too much of an incline for this trip to be made by boat. And this was amazing for the Congo heartland, and it was also supported by both the socialists and the capitalists. Now the socialist workers had a much easier job, as most of the resources from the inland North Congo used to have to be hauled by hand or hauled into trains. But now boats could take them through really easier, making their job easier. And for capitalists, this meant big bucks. And also by doing this, the Congolese basically made their northern frontier immune to the socialist rise, as they'd made the socialists in the region pretty satisfied with what the government was doing. It was a win-win for everyone. But meanwhile, all these communists were only expanding. And soon after, they'd taken northern Ethiopia, starting another Ethiopian civil war, as this country apparently cannot get a break. And finally, Egypt became significantly more socialist after a coup. It's now 1955. Specifically late 1955, and now Africa is back in danger of a large war that could systematically destroy what had been built for so long and all the progress made from the recovery from World War II. Anyways, thank you. Make sure to click the like and subscribe button, and goodbye.